So welcome to Calc 2. I had many of you last semester, but several of you I haven't had before. So my name's Caitlin, instructor for the class. Clearly you all know when and where we meet. So I have on the syllabus here, I have my studio hours and office hours listed. So I'll be in the math studio every morning from 8 to 8:30. Fingers crossed that I get there at 8. And then I have some other office hours listed also. So the textbook, it's the 6th edition of the Hughes-Hallett book. It's the same textbook that you used last semester for Calc 1. You can use the 5th edition, that's fine. And you just need access to some kind of graphing technology in class and at home while you're working on your homework. So that could be a graphing calculator, it could be an app on your phone, it could be a tablet, laptop, whatever. Tests and quizzes, you'll only be allowed a scientific calculator. And I can lend you one if you don't own your own. If you typically use a graphing calculator, I'll lend you a scientific one for quizzes and tests. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about what Calc 2 is in a minute. So we're just going to jump over all of this. If you were in my class last semester, the class was going to be run very similarly, except you're not going to hand your homework in, okay? I'm going to look at it in like the 5 minutes before class starts. Okay, so I will come around, look at your homework, check it off in the 5 minutes before class. Okay. If you don't get here in the 5 minutes before class, you can stay after class and show me your homework. I'm just not going to use class time to check it. And we're going to have very little time to go over homework questions in class. So if you have questions on material from the previous class, come into the math studio early. So in general, class is going to run where we have a brief 10 to 20 minute lecture on new material. And then the bulk of class is going to be spent working on class activities with your group mates. Okay? Individually and or with your group, whichever you feel more comfortable with. And then after the activities, you'll find a set of learning objectives that lists what you should know for the next class and a homework assignment. So attendance is really, really, really important. And my way of keeping attendance are these folders that are on your table here. So if you want to switch tables after today, it's totally fine. But this, eventually you're going to sit in the same place all the time. And you just put your name on one spot here. And then next to each day that you're here, put a little check mark. All right, so if you have to miss a class, it's just you have to take responsibility for learning the material that you missed. I do record all the classes. It records what I'm saying and what I'm writing on the whiteboard. So, and they're all posted in YouTube with a link to a playlist for our class in Moodle. What else? Okay, resources. Since I mentioned Moodle, we'll jump to resources here. Definitely come see me anytime. You have my office hours and my studio hours. You can email me. Other students in the class are a great resource. You know, get some names and numbers, do homework together. Lots of students like to gather in the math studio and work. Moodle, that's the internet home base for our course. Anything that I give you on paper in class, there's also an electronic version of it in Moodle. So you can, if you miss something, if you're absent or you just lost it, you can always find a copy in Moodle. It also has links to other resources like the YouTube playlist of class, videos in YouTube that are solving like practice problems for tests, things like that. The Math Studio, it's staffed nearly all day by GCC math instructors. I'll be in there 8 to 8:30 before class. We have peer tutors. Smart Thinking is an online tutoring website. It's free to you. It's not free. GCC subscribes for all of its students. So take advantage. Right? Just, hi, come on in. It's open all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so you can get help anytime. There's YouTube. You can get the playlist for our class is linked in Moodle, but if you want to browse all my videos, you can check out my channel. And then GCC tech support. If you have any or need or think you might need any kind of accommodation, extra time on tests or anything, just talk to me. We'll figure that out. Your grade is going to be based on attendance, homework, take-home quizzes, projects, tests, and a final exam. So attendance, you get a perfect score for each class where you show up on time and work with your table mates for the entire class, so you can't leave early. In calculating your course grade at the end of the semester, I'll drop your 3 lowest attendance scores so you can miss up to 3 classes and still get a perfect attendance score. So homework, like I said, I'm just going to briefly look at each person's homework in the 5 minutes before class starts or the 5 minutes after class ends. For homework, it's totally fine to seek help from me, a tutor, a classmate, anybody. Make sure you dedicate some serious time to working on your homework. It's going to be one of the most important ways that you learn the material. There is a solutions manual in the studio, so you can always check even the evens, you can check the answers, and it's not just the answers, it has the whole problem worked out if you're really stuck. So for quizzes, we're only going to do take-home quizzes this semester. There are going to be approximately 6 of them, and instructions on what resources are allowed for each take-home quiz will be distributed with each quiz. There's going to be 9 projects, which is a lot, right? But they're much, if you were in my class last semester, these are much smaller projects than the ones that we did last semester. 3 exams and a final exam. Just want to make note today, just in case I forget to tell you before the first exam approaches, for every test you can bring a 1-page sheet of notes with you that you make yourself. All right, and then your course grade, I'll calculate it 2 different ways and give you the better of the 2. You don't have to choose which method you're going to be graded on. I calculate it both ways, give you the better. So one counts tests a little heavier, homework and attendance things a little lighter, and the other one takes the emphasis off the tests and puts it on some other things. All right, so makeup policy. Makeup quizzes and tests are generally not given. Okay, so if you miss a quiz, meaning you don't hand it in the day that it's due, I will not take it. Okay, you will get a 0 on it. Projects, same thing. Okay, homework you can show me up to a week late, but quizzes, projects, tests, no makeups. So with quizzes and projects, if you're really sick and you can't come in, just email me. You know, take pictures of it and just email them to me, and I'll count it on time. And if it's a test and you're really sick, just let me know like as soon as you can. We can work something else out. But just if you just don't show up and don't tell me what's going on, you'll get a 0. All right, so this is just a list of all your homework assignments with problems from the 5th edition and the 6th edition. So whichever one you're working out of. Note that the 2 sets of assignments don't always perfectly match. Like sometimes there was a problem in the 5th edition that disappeared in the 6th edition. So I picked out like an equivalent problem that they're not exactly the same. All right, and then the last thing is your course schedule, which on your syllabus it printed badly, so that's what's on yellow. I've just printed it for you again on yellow. So this is the course schedule. And each day I'll start class by bringing up the course schedule, highlighting the day we're on, and any upcoming important things. Okay, so today's class 1. Project 1 is assigned, which of course I forgot to print, but it's in Moodle, so if you want to start it, you can go check out Moodle, and I'll bring you a hard copy on Friday. And we're going to cover a derivatives review, course overview and derivatives review. And then upcoming things that are due, Project 1 is going to be due February 3rd, and Quiz 1, which is a take-home, I will give you on February 5th. And it'll be due the next class. All right, so this column is new if you have had me before. Okay. This practice problems column. So this is how I give you problems to review for tests. Okay. So instead of having a study guide for each test, there's this column, you have a big packet called practice problems, Math 202. Okay. And the cover of it is this list of class 1 and practice problems. And so when you're going through to study for, say, test 1, you could, all these problems listed next to classes 1 through 11 are good practice for test 1. Okay? So instead of making them a packet that's a study guide for test 1, I just have one packet that's a study guide for all the tests, and the problems that you should do in it are listed on the syllabus and on the front of that packet. Does that make sense? Okay. And then there are videos of most of these problems being solved in YouTube. Some of them still don't have videos, but you have a lot of them. All right, anybody have questions? Yes. Day that it is assigned. Homework. Yeah, class, that's the day that it's assigned. Yeah, good question. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is the really big packet I gave you. So that packet, the first page of it says quiz number 2. Okay, so here, this is the first page. So I'll let you know when we get to this. So the first several pages of every packet are things that you're going to like rip out as you go. So this we're going to do later. And you have several copies of it. All right, so there we go. All right, so after all the copies of quiz 2, then you have some reference sheets. So these are things that you might want to refer to while you're working on homework or doing a quiz, or might want to bring with you to a test, right? So sometimes the reference sheets that I give you are allowed on tests. I'll let you know. So this is an integration formulas reference sheet. It's not going to mean much to you right now, but it'll come in handy. And then you have a couple more reference sheets that I will point out as we get to those topics. Then we have a strategy guide for differentiation. So this is all stuff that you should know that you learned in Calc 1, how to take derivatives. Okay. No longer allowed on tests. Okay, so this is just stuff that should be in your brain. And then there's some examples for taking derivatives. A CliffsNotes version of Calc 1, quick reference, and then class number 1. Okay, so we're on page 12. All right, so today we're going to talk about what is Calc 2, and we're going to review differentiation from Calc 1. Okay, so we're going to take 2 classes to review everything from Calc 1. Okay, so today we're going to review derivatives. Next class we're going to review definite integrals. Okay, so first let's talk about what is Calc 2. It's divided into roughly 3 segments. The first one is evaluating integrals. So we started, just like barely started this at the end of Calc 1. So we're going to learn some techniques of integration. So methods of evaluating an integral, and we'll do some problem solving. Part 2 of the course is applications of integrals. So we're going to be all the things we do in part 1, apply them in part 2. We're going to talk about geometry, physics, economics, and probability. And then part 3 is sequences in series, right? So we're going to be adding up infinite amounts of stuff. So if I add 1 plus a half plus a fourth plus an eighth plus a 16th plus a 32nd plus a 64th and keep going forever, what does that add up to? And what does it have to do with calculus? So those are the 3 pieces of our course. So today we're going to start with a quick review on derivatives. So how do we find a derivative given a table of values, a graph, or a formula? So in each of these examples, we're going to estimate f prime of 2. Right, so if I have a table here, a table of values, how would I estimate f prime of 2? Yeah.
I'm at a loss for words with the other 2 points.
2 points on either side?
Yes.
Sure. Okay. So the definition of a derivative is the slope of a tangent line, right? Slope of the tangent line at 2 in this case. So the best we can do here is to find the slope of a secant line between 2 points, because we don't have that much information. So here I could pick any 2 points. Henry suggested the 2 points on either side of 2. You could also use x equals 2 and x equals 3, or x equals 1 and x equals 2. They'll all give you an estimate. Okay, and which one is the best is hard to say without more information. So if I do either side of 2, I would do 9 minus 1 over 3 minus 1, change in y over change in x, and we get 8 over 2, which is 4. So it's one way of getting an estimate. All right, if rather than a table of values, I give you a graph, and I want you to estimate f prime of 2, we draw a tangent line. Okay, and then how would I estimate the slope of that line? You can just count rise over run, just draw a little triangle, right? Or pick 2 points that are on the line and calculate the slope. So it looks like I go through that point. That's handy. And then I have the point on the curve, so I could make a little triangle. My rise, I go from 4 to 9 and I get 5. My run goes from 1 to 4 and I get, 2 to 4, so I get 2. So my rise over my run would be 5 over 2, 2.5. Okay, but if I'm given a formula, f of x equals x squared, and I want to find f prime of 2, I can do it exactly now, right? Because I can find a formula for f prime of x. What is f prime of x? 2x. So the derivative of x squared is 2x. It's the power rule. You just bring that 2 down in front, reduce the exponent by 1. So then f prime of 2 is 2 times 2, which is 4. All right, so we haven't reviewed all the derivative rules together, more like the concept of what a derivative is, right? It's the slope of a tangent line. You can estimate it in a couple of different ways. You can find it exactly if you know a formula. And I'm going to have you work in your groups to try to remind yourselves of the rest of the derivative rules. Okay. You do have a reference sheet a few pages earlier. Feel free to refer to it if you forget one of the rules. And that's it. I'll be walking around to help if you get stuck.